Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon, and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. And as always, thank you for all your support, including sharing, chatting, liking, and subscribing. Now roll that famous logo animation! Good evening and welcome back to Computerized Start Live! I'm your host, Justin D. Morgan. And maybe I shouldn't have gone to grab this one last box of stuff. Oh, and there's the sample of paint I've been looking for the past 4 weeks. Let's see, where can I put this to lose it again for another 4 weeks? I don't know. Alright, we'll just set it there. Alright, so I was upstairs and I decided that I was just going to send it in terms of the pile of stuff I had to share on the channel, things that I've been given and hadn't brought downstairs yet. So anyways, I just basically got back downstairs with the last box of goods. I had trouble grabbing it because I was trying to be creative and grab the box from around the corner, and well, it was caught up on something. So anyways, let's see here. I guess the item that reminded me was the another bag of stuff I'd set on one of our Wheel of Regrets entries tonight. So let's see here who we have in the chat. We have Jack68K. Hi, Jack. We have Sylvestron. Bits and Bytes. Hi, Sylvestron. We have CMD Big Mike. Hi, Big Mike. And we have SJ Brand, SJ Brand EXE. Hi, SJ. And we have Jesse, I8386SX. Hi, Jesse. We have SadMac356. Hi, SadMac. Alright, so let's see here. We got the Ko-fi goal. Link is in the description. We have Jean-Francois Paré in the chat. Hello, Jean-Francois. And let's see here. Before we get to Wheel of Regrets, we are going to go to the segment I like to call Things You All Have Given Me. And in this case, these items come from one of my former coworkers who retired. He was cleaning out some of his excess collections, and he had a few goodies for me. So we are going to go for the items that are below this box first, because they are causing this box to tip over. And we have, let's see here. We have an item that is not, that was simply in the bag, so I remembered to bring it downstairs. All right. Jack's asking, did your former coworker give you his collection of Mad Dog expansion cards? No. But we do have some nice goodies here. First of all, we have Big Box Software. Descent 2. On CD-ROM. Now, the interesting thing is, I opened this up to see what was inside, and I was pleasantly surprised. So we have Descent 2, some handwritten notes. I think those are the quick reference card. We have the, hold that thought, Descent instruction manual. The Descent 2 Mission Builder. There we go, the Descent 2 Instruction Manual. The Descent Official Strategy Guide. You don't see those in print these days. Some more paper. And it looks like despite the fact that the box didn't say, we have Descent. So, I have both Descent and Descent 2. So I was thinking about it. I don't know if this is a case of there was a sticker on the overwrap that said Descent included or what, but yeah, it looks like I have both Descent and Descent 2. Sylvester says extras, yes. So, very nice. Yeah. Windows 95 CD-ROM version, so it doesn't... are those stapled sheets and printed docs from a past user? Yes. I'll have to look and see what they actually are. Some of them may not even have to do with Descent. Alright, the next item was a Quake Episode 1 shareware. Kinda neat. Yeah, Jack says, printed docs, how quaint. We have Mac OS X Snow Leopard. Very nice. Which will go very nicely with the Mac OS X Leopard. Apple old school boxes hit hard. Sylvestron says, I once got a box for Star Control 2 and inside was loads of printouts and handwritten notes from a past gamer with details of all the planets and alignments, etc. Yes. We have David Starbuck. Hi, David. We are going through things you all have given me. The, yeah, Sad Mac can hear the intro music already. So, again, alright, I am going through these in no particular order. And in fact, since you can see the logo on one of the chips through the bag, I might as well go ahead and say that we have a 3DFX. I believe this is a Voodoo 2. Because I think it's a Voodoo 2. Because I think the Voodoo 2 has the 3 chips. Of course, they couldn't have put it on anywhere, but, yep. Anyways, this is the, I think the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 megabyte version. I think there was, one that had more RAM and there'd been RAM populated on the back. I believe this is the 6 megabyte version. Very nice. Don't know if it works or not. But Voodoo 2's very nice. We also have a... Oh. Ignore the Valspar porch, floor, patio, concrete, and garage coatings catalog, because that's... not... That was because I think I went to Lowe's on the same trip I picked this stuff up. Alright, we have a Permedia... Or, no, this isn't a Permedia card. This is a... STB Systems Gateway Velocity 128 AGP. No TV. So, yeah, I think it was made by STB. Oh, 12 megabytes was the max. Okay. Yeah, this also looks like an STB card. So... Alright. And we've got, iWork 08. We have some floppy disks with software. I think this has quarter deck expanded memory manager, as well as I think some other miscellaneous stuff's in here. Oh, yeah, I think a Windows for Workgroups. David says, STB had that black PCB. I have 2 for SLI goodness somewhere in my pile of stuff. Jack says, hopefully you have Excel in those floppies. No, I don't have Excel in those floppies. That would be excellent. But we do have... No Trident cards, Thomas. Hi, Thomas. We do have Microsoft Windows, though, on 5.25-inch discs. Version 3.1. Oh, and MS-DOS 5. How neat. Let's see here. In no particular order, we have a Nexus tablet that I have no idea what I'm going to do with. I'll find some cool use for it. There's the box for it. I don't know why the tablet is not in the box. Is that because there is something else in the box? Oh, no, I think he might have taken it out of the box to show me what it was. Alright, so that I don't do anything silly with it, I'm going to put the Nexus in the box. And then, if I'm looking for it later... Hi, Joseph Norris, welcome. Then all I need to do is look for the box with the Nexus in it. Joseph says, no matter how advanced modern tech becomes, I still miss the 90s when things were new and a totally new experience. Yes. All right. All right, we have... Oh, there we go. We have MS-DOS 4.01 from DTK Computer. This is really neat. Oh, no. You see my serial number. No, Hardware Hacker, you have not missed it. We are on Things You All Have Given Me, that segment where I show off things that people have given me. We have a couple of I.O. cards. Jack says, don't copy that floppy. Some cables. And a 16-bit controller card with, I think, IDE, floppy, game port, serial, 2 serial, and a parallel. So, very nice. It's a Boca Research one. Assuming that's if the original card's actually in the box. Sylvestron says, top performance enhancement. I was sure it was be a box of steroids. Yeah. Joseph says, the Amiga, when the best tech can be killed by clueless management. All right. We have, oh, here we go. A network card, Etherlink 3. These are always nice. Nicer if it had a RJ45 on it, but beggars can't be choosers. Oh yeah, I was glad I could hang out on your, even if I was just lurking for part of it. I was doing laundry. We have an S3 Verge card. It's like an STB Power Graph 64 3D. So if I have a computer I want to decelerate the 3D on it, we'll try this card out. Oh, the driver disk for that video card. We have a folder that's marked Commodore stuff. Oh, very nice. We've got QEdit Advanced. And... oh, wow. Yeah, now you all... for some of you, you might have remembered that I had one of my former coworkers donated some Commodores to me. Yes, this would be the same coworker. There's, Commodore stuff. Yeah, a bunch of, like, photocopied documentation for magazines. I guess I'll have to I may have to just, like, maybe scan these and archive them. Because I don't know if the original magazine source ever got archived. So, anyway, Commodore stuff. Very cool. We got a Raspberry Pi. Given the ports on it, probably one of the... Yeah, a Pi 1. That's about the conclusion I had, so... Jack says, you're making me want to play Lemmings. We have MSDN Library. Microsoft Office Professional. MSDN Library. Oh, cool. And I believe these are the bundled software for a MacBook Pro. I'm not sure which one. I'll have to figure it out. So anyways, very cool. Lots of cool things. I definitely will have to check out the Commodore stuff and probably scan the Commodore stuff, archive the floppies that haven't been archived yet, try out these expansion cards, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, Jack says, lol, you can learn about Windows APIs from the early 2000s, which are largely the same as the Windows APIs today. Yeah. Actually, David Plummer recently released a video where he implemented Notepad in under 4K. And yeah, as he was talking through how he did it, I was realizing just how many of the original APIs you could still use in Windows today. So anyways, thank you, Bob, for all these cool goodies. We will definitely enjoy these in coming live streams. So, all right. So I guess let's see here. I'm going to have to set these to the side. Oh, all right. Before we get to the segment everyone's probably waiting on, I do have a correction. I made a misstatement in my last stream. I made the comment that MSI made a line of video cards named Trident, and it dawned on me after the stream that that was incorrect. MSI does not make a line of video cards named Trident. That is their line of gaming laptops. So I apologize for calling their gaming laptops a video card. Sure, they contain a video card, but I had the branding wrong. So I cannot have a Trident video card in any of my new computers. However, someone wanted to donate some G-Skill Trident X RAM. I could have Trident RAM in my new computer, but I ain't paying DDR4 prices for G-Skill memory. Sylvester says, I've been led astray. So anyways, I thought I would correct the record before any of y'all went to go try to buy a Trident video card and discovered that I made a mistake. To err is human. To screw up, you need a computer. To really screw up, you need a computer. Oh, I even butcher the jokes sometimes. All right. Well, how about let's just go to the following.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our favorite segment, Wheel of Regrets. Here's your host, Justin D. Morgan.
Hey, who comes up with these titles anyway?
Yes, thank you, Jack. Jack updated it for us. To err is human. To really screw up, you need AI. Yes. Harder Hacker. Who comes up with these titles anyways? David Starbucks says, you can always put some Trident chewing gum in your new computer. All right. Anyways, this first item, which given where the other items are, we'll just go ahead and open this and look at it. And then maybe we get to the other items. But this first item comes to us from an eBay seller in Massachusetts. So hi to all my eBay sellers and viewers in Massachusetts. I was actually hadn't exactly decided to buy this item so soon, but the eBay seller sent me a best offer, and Hardwrecker says hi from Massachusetts. Yeah. And I decided to look up the specs some more and do a little research, and I decided to accept their offer. So anyways, remember what the thumbnail said, but we do have a rather heavy motherboard-shaped object. We have a manila envelope with parts in it. We have an object that kind of maybe strangely looks heat sink shaped. Sadmax says my cat says hi. Sylvestron's telling Sadmac, telling us said pss, 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 pss. Yeah. They did nicely pack it. Harder Hacker says, I have an eBay regret that isn't a regret. Well, I'm hoping this isn't a regret. I should probably go ahead and find a box to set this on so we can test it without shorting it. I don't want to use the Descent box. It's in good shape. Oh, here we go. This mailer box will work nicely. I was trying to find a box that wasn't too big for my workbench. Oh, Harder Hacker says, my new to me PS5 Slim with optical drive. Oh, nice. JS says, hi JS. Well, it has a heatsink, so I'm thinking slot 1 Pentium 2. Oh, you might want to check the thumbnail. Yeah, I will preface this with, we'll get back to old stuff very soon, but yeah, the theme of tonight's stream was I bought stuff for streaming. I don't know if OBS Studio will run on a Pentium 2. Jack says, international shipping is how you level up your regret. Sylvestron says, yeah, especially through eBay's international shipping program. We have... waiting for someone to say, Justin, that does not look like a vintage motherboard. I can't find that one on the retro web. We haven't... Sylvestron says. Sylvestron says, that's a weird-looking VIC-2. Yeah. Jack says, is it a VIC-20 motherboard? David Starbucks says, OBS will not, in fact, run on a Pentium 2. Hardware Hacker says, Jack, you beat me to it. Oh, Sylvestron corrects the statement. That's a weird-looking VIC-20. All right, yes, we have... Jack says, well, Sylvestron beat me to it. Yeah. We have an Aorus a Gigabyte Aorus. These names just really roll off the tongue. Oh, no, excuse me. A Gigabyte 370 Aorus Gaming 5 motherboard. So this is... JS says, wait, haven't we seen the Aorus motherboard before? Different Falcon configuration. Yes, that one was a AM4 motherboard for my video editing rig. This one is an LGA 1151 motherboard for my streaming rig. Sylvestron's asking, does this go in computer? Harder Hacker says, speaking of, I need to do a brief fix video for my VIC-20 keycap replacement. Yes. So we have, it just so happens that both boards are Gigabyte Aorus boards. That is somewhat of a coincidence, although maybe Gigabyte does intelligent things with their motherboards. I don't know. Maybe I like using the brands I remember using back in the 90s and the early 2000s. Jack says, which expansion slot does it go in? Anyways, we have here, if there's anything to tie this purchase into my channel, we have a Coffee Lake processor. There are some mornings where a coffee cup is not big enough. A coffee mug is not big enough. I just want to go put a straw in a coffee lake and start drinking. Still better be a very good brew of coffee, even if I'm drinking it out of a lake. Ha ha ha. We have an i5 8600K processor, which actually I'm probably going to, assuming this all works, I'm probably going to upgrade to an i7 9700K. Jack says, Coffee Lake, spelled Ko-Fi. Yeah. But, anyways, this board, unlike the last one we looked at, this board was not sold as is. In fact, it has a 30-day warranty. Which is one reason I decided to go for the seller's offer. They're giving a 30-day warranty. So, yeah, this one has 2 X16 slots. However, we will get to the configuration. Harder Hacker says caffeinated gigahertz speeds. Yeah, exactly. So yes, this board does have 2 X16 slots. In fact, it actually has 3, but the third one is one of those slots where it will take a 16 slot card, but it only has like 2. I think it only has like 2 or 4 channels assigned to it. And you can only, if you're using one of these M2 slots, I think this one goes down to like 2 channels or no channels or something. There's some, you start to get into some weird caveats with this board, as with all consumer boards, because they don't have like oodles of PCI Express lanes. But Joseph says, asking, what is this, an LGA CPU on your stream? This is the first time I saw this, even though you have had them before. Yeah, this is going to be my new streaming computer. So, yeah, this is an LGA 1151 V2, because Intel did a thing. So, 6th and 7th gen processors are LGA 1151. And then I guess Intel decided that they liked the socket so much, they would reuse it for 8th and 9th gen, but they swapped some pins around. So you can't put 6th and 7th gen in a Coffee Lake board. And you can't put 8th and 9th gen in the, I guess that's going to be the Z170 boards. and which are for KB Lake and whatever the other is it Sky Lake and KB Lake? Sylvestron's asking what could go wrong. I think it just won't post. Oh, there's something on the board there. I thought there was a scratch there, but there's not. All right, so features of this board. We got Coffee Lake processor. Yeah, David Starbucks says a Z170 is 6th gen. No, David, actually, I made a mistake. I think Z170 and Z270 are 6th and 7th gen. I think 8th and 9th gen are Z370 and Z390. I think at that point, Intel had the chipsets nailed down. Yeah. Jean-Francois says CPU sockets peaked with Super Socket 7. Anything after that is silly. Yeah, so this one's i5 8600K, as Joe is saying. I've 14 nanometer, 6 core, 6 thread, 4.3 gigahertz, 8th gen Intel Core i5. Yeah. So this is a Z370 chipset. I looked, and I realized that I was initially saying I wanted a Z390, but I looked at what the differences were and realized for what I'm going to be doing, I'll save money and just go for a Z370 motherboard, and I'll be quite happy with it. So anyways, the features are this board. We've got 2 X16 slots, which can go, you can use them as either 1/16 or 2/8. We do have 3 one-channel PCI Express, although I want to say one of these is disabled if you're using some of the other I/O. And then I think this one's an X4 slot. And I want to say it goes down to X2 if you use this M2. Because I think this M2 and this slot are sharing PCI Express. Now I'm going by memory, which means if you want to buy one of these for yourselves, please go actually check the data sheet. But anyways, we do have 2 X4 capable NVMe M2 slots, which meets my requirement that I wanted to be able to have 2 NVMe's, even though I only need 1 to start. So I can have 2. My video card. My 4-channel capture card can go in here because I don't need 3 NVMe's. So there's my 4 channels, 16 and 4. And then my Blackmagic card goes in one of these slots, and a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet card goes in the other. And there's the cards, because this only has gigabit networking. So Jack's asking, so you're going to transfer the guts of your current streaming PC into this? Yes, but not during a live stream for obvious reasons. David Starbucks says some of the SATA ports will be disabled if you use that last M2 usually. Yeah, I think the SATA ports also start to get disabled at some point. Hi, Kevin. Welcome. And Joe's saying this seems like overkill for a DOS PC if you ask me. This is for my streaming computer. What motherboard is my current streaming PC? It is an HP Z440 workstation, which is not supported by Windows 11. And before I bought this motherboard, Windows 10 support was ending in October. But you can always count on Microsoft to be watching me buying stuff on eBay. Probably not actually true. And waiting for me to buy a replacement computer to then go, oh, our bad. We're going to support Windows 10 for another year for free. Hardware Hacker says, what? No Trident card. Unsubscribe. Just kidding. Yeah, I know you already went over that. So anyways, my streaming computer will have 32 gigs of RAM. These might look familiar. So these are going to go in the streaming computer. I am eventually going to get an i7 9700K. But this will do for now for commissioning. For testing, we'll pull I've got a PCI Express card sitting over here. Jack says, so your current streaming PC is a Xeon. Yes. So I will be downgrading in terms of PCI Express lanes. But hopefully upgrading in terms of generation, and Windows 11 will support this. So yeah. I know Microsoft didn't actually wait for me to buy a new motherboard before they decided to support Windows 10 for another year. Joseph says, the modern meme. He's got RAM! Get him! David Starbucks says, if you use an NVIDIA card for streaming, the CPU almost doesn't matter. Yes, and for streaming, I'm currently using an NVIDIA GTX 1650 Super that was donated to the channel by none other than David Starbuck. So, thank you, David. That card is going to go into this motherboard. Although, again, not while I'm actually streaming, for obvious reasons. Oh, it's a 1660 Super. Okay. 1650, 1660. What's 10 among friends? I got close. Well, I was thinking of going up to a 9th gen processor only because it has hardware mitigations for those security vulnerabilities. Jax says, so you're not going to use the onboard Intel 630 graphics for streaming. I mean, I might see what Intel QuickSync gets me versus NVENC. But I've got the card, so why not use it? It's not like a super power-hungry card. So, oh, Jack says I was joking. Well, actually, I'm not joking. I might actually look to see what QuickSync would get me, because I think OBS supports QuickSync. I might look to see if Intel QuickSync might give me better performance than NVIDIA NVENC. I may not test it on an actual live stream that matters, but I was thinking of actually trying it. Jesse says, potato, who's counting? Yeah. Jack says, also, if you use the NVIDIA card, it'll keep your basement warmer in the winter. And if I use the item I bought at Lowe's today, it'll keep my basement a little cooler in the summer. Maybe. That's the theory, at least. I do have to wait for the item from Amazon to arrive so I can actually install it in the window. Joe says, I assume you can't put this motherboard in your HP Z440 case. Maybe you can. There are just enough compromises with that HP case that I am going to say, no, I will not be trying that. I'm going to get a case to put it in. David says the 1660 Super will draw like 75 watts only if you're using NVENC. Lol. Yeah. Yeah, I don't stress this card at all while streaming. And I might keep the 8600K, honestly, for a while. It was bundled. I figured, well, worst case, if I do get the 9th gen that I wanted, I wasn't going to toss up, I wasn't going to give up the opportunity to have a CPU for testing, since I did decide to just go ahead and buy this now. I'm going to get my video editing computer set up completely, and then I will set up the streaming computer. Also, unlike the CPU I was testing last week, and I had a pitiful heatsink for testing, it came with this Noctua cooler. I don't know if this is a... I don't know which cooler this is. Jesse says, that reminds me, I should find a window air conditioner for the July 10th stream. Jack says, the only thing you stress while streaming is your internet connection with Comcast. David says, Jack speaks the truth. David says, that cooler is super overkill for the 8600K. Overkill is good, though. Yes. I was not going to, like... I was like, okay. It's got a cooler. It's a cooler that's more than capable for this processor. Even though I actually bought another cooler on eBay. The place where I buy the things I later regret. Why in the world does this... Oh, someone, like, literally put glue or something on this fan. That's weird. Oh, okay. This must be the, NHD12 single tower cooler. Jack says, I'm surprised the cooler actually fits. Because actually, for those of you that are concerned about the little chintzy cooler I had on my 3900X last week, I bought a Noctua NH... is that like a D14? It is a discontinued cooler. Yeah, the Noctua NHD14. It's actually discontinued. The reason why I went with the D14 and not the D15 is the D15 is too tall for a lot of cases. And so I went for a D14. And the only reason I didn't just do what a normal person would do and buy the D12 is because that would deprive us of a potential eBay regret. And that would violate the spirit of the channel. So, anyways, let's see here. We had, oh, hi, Francois. Welcome. Yes, let's see here. And we have Landon. Landon T. Hello, Landon. Welcome. Yeah, Sylvester says, yeah, I have an NHD15 in my streaming PC, actually. Haha, yeah. So, anyways, I think the way you install the heatsink Jack says the D15 is ridiculous. Yeah, so long story short, I settled on the D14 even though it's discontinued. I found an eBay seller. Actually, I found several eBay sellers selling them because you can pretty much find anything on eBay. The one seller was in Maryland, and they had pretty much a new in box or like new in box. It had all the mounting hardware for all the platforms. I could see it in the photo. I think they might have bought it, and I'm wondering if it might have been too big for their slightly smaller case or something, or someone just never used it. Whatever. It was at a decent price, so I went ahead and bought it. And then, because I was watching a couple of these, another seller that was selling one that had the LGA 1151 mounting hardware on it, that looked like it had all the mounting hardware for LGA 1151, but like nothing else, sent me a best offer on it. And I thought about it for a moment, and I was like, okay, sure, why not? So I actually have 2 of those heat sinks on the way. David says the Thermalright Peerless Assassin is $35 and it's just as good as the D15, but it's louder. Sylvester, and I have a tiny in-wind case as well. It clears the side glass by about 2 to 3 millimeters. I almost went for a Thermalright. That is like the lousiest X in the world. But I couldn't get past the fact that it seemed like they were ripping off thermal takes. They were trying to make themselves look like they were thermal take. And the noise, the potential noise. Jack says, you're a brave person applying thermal paste on stream. Well, you know, the thing is, I'm going to give the following disclaimer now that I've applied that thermal paste, and that this is really a temporary thermal paste installation, that I'm almost certainly going to disassemble this contraption and put a different heatsink on it. And in reality, if they're complaining about my thermal paste installation, they're complaining about a temporary thing, and in all reality, it's channel engagement. I don't know. I just, the more I looked at the Thermalright, and I was looking at reviews, and I was looking at the price, and I was looking at the size of it, and actually, it wasn't really I was joking about the fact that they seem to be making themselves look like thermal take. That was kind of me. All right, I need to get these screws. Really, the reason why I didn't go with it is it looked like it was going to be just as heavy as the Dark Rock Pro 4 that I have, and possibly just as big. And it was going to cause clearance issues in cases. And I decided that I would rather just go for the Noctua, because I know the Noctua coolers are quiet, and I like computers that stay in their lane. I don't need to hear the fans running to know that the computer's still in the room. Unless they're vintage computers, then I do kind of like to be able to hear the fan to know they're still alive and kicking, as opposed to like not making fan noises but producing smoke noises. Hold on, I am trying to find. Because someone's probably thinking, well, just go get your iFixit kit. Well, the iFixit kit's upstairs. Oh, there we go. I think that's the right bit. So so yeah, I'm going to use Noctua coolers, and it dawned on me that I may have to go get this. Okay, hold please. Yeah, I was. It was kind of the. It really came down to I was looking at Thermalright. I was noticing they were making a lot of coolers that looked like they were clones of other coolers, and I mean, I guess I'm not opposed to companies making clones of other coolers because sometimes they make a much better version of the cooler than the original company. Oh, I'm not sure that. Oh, yeah, that does. Okay, that does unscrew. Never mind. But I guess I decided that given some of my past experience with coolers, like for example, my Threadripper has an all-in-one that was nice and quiet for like all of I think a week or two. And then one of the fans started making fan bearing noises. Hi, George, welcome. I note that all in ones for Threadripper aren't exactly cheap. Oh, I don't know why I'm cross installing these, because I think the way you're supposed to install this is you install these brackets and then you put the tower cooler on. And I was reading the installation instructions for the Dark Rock Pro 4 and how it actually the installation instructions advise you to remove the heatsink before transporting the computer because that's just how heavy it is. Yes, that thermal paste looks like it's been applied, but I just applied it, so it is fresh paste. It'll be good enough for testing. Here we go. Because actually, now that's the first time I've torqued it down. It should be nice and smusha spreadified. All right, for anyone just joining, this is what's going to become my streaming computer. I'm going to have to look at where it wants DRAM installed. All right, let's go ahead and plug the other power in. All right, CPU power is going to be right here. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and put the fan on. And plug it into the gray fan header there. What is all that plastic for over on the left? Well, this? Oh, it's the shroud over the I/O ports. It's probably purely for decoration. It might also be providing some structural rigidity because it looks like that plastic piece goes the entire length of the boards. It may also be to might be providing some sort of an anti-warp. Because these motherboards are rather prone to warping. All right, so there we go. We got that, got that. All right, so for testing video, I do have the GTX 1080 over to the side, but I realized that I think last stream I said I didn't have any Radeon cards, and I forgot that I had found this Radeon card and rescued it, and I have no idea if it works. So nope, that's actually not the card I found. That is the R9 380X that I repasted from the Cheap PC Challenge. Which I know this card works. Okay. Somewhere I have a 580 that I'd forgotten about. That is not the 580 card. Okay. I have hidden the 580 card for myself. Well, that explains where the 380 was. Well, we will just go with the MSI 1080 GTX that I know that works because it doesn't require more than one supplemental power connector. So how's that for... I don't really feel like trying to find the second PCIe power lead. Because even though I'm just running MemTest, I don't really want a daisy chain. So there's that. All right. So we got video card, we got a cooler, we got heatsink. I need to install the RAM. I don't know what slots it wants the RAM in, but I'm going to assume that it's like probably like most other boards, probably this one. I know this RAM. These are two 16 gigabyte memory modules that were in amongst some parts that I got from a friend. They were in her late husband's older computer collection, and they were just chilling out, not installed in a computer. So we'll go for them. All right, so we got MemTest in. I should probably plug the keyboard in. So MemTest will help us make sure the motherboard's working. Because if we can run a memory test, then it's probably working. Joe says the real question is: has the Wi-Fi module been properly baked inside the Aorus oven, tried like the last one? I don't know. All right, there we go. We got the flash of all the RGB. That is not the power switch. Where's the power switch? Hold please. That's speaker. That's power LED. I had it there. I had the right one. Oh, this one's got a Dr. Debug on it. Yay! Also, I think OBS is oh, it would probably help if I plugged the video connector in. Wow, the motherboard is very red right now. I think it's training RAM. Jesse says, I have a doozy of a misplaced PC part story I need to tell later. Jean Francois says, glitch in the Matrix. Okay. We're at C1. We have a... Oh, okay, it just powered off. All right, just powered on again. We are... Yeah, lots of lights, and they're all red. We're back to C1. Okay, we're just powered off again. Powered on. Sylvestron says, needs more RGB. I mean, needs more GB. Yeah. And we are... Are we boot looping? Unfortunately, I can't... The debug LED is so bright I can't tell which one it's, which one's which. We are boot looping at the moment. All right. Let's turn off power so that I can actually maybe attempt to read the legend on some of these LEDs so that I know which one it's getting stuck on. All right, so CPU, DRAM. It's getting stuck on the DRAM. VGA boot. Okay, it's getting stuck on DRAM. Maybe I got the, maybe I put these in the wrong slots? I mean, I guess it's possible this RAM is incompatible with this motherboard. Oh, that actually sounded like it went in. Maybe I just didn't seat it very well. All right, let's try that. Yeah, it was that DRAM LED. So something, it didn't like something about the DRAM. Either I didn't have it seated or it was incompatible. All right, if this doesn't fix it, then I will do a clear CMOS. Although the CMOS battery's probably dead. All right, we've got no video out. Honestly, I should probably try the onboard HDMI. All right, we still have DRAM. Went to CPU DRAM. CPU DRAM. All right, we're at C1. It turned on the RGB. And all right, power off. Power on. CPU DRAM. CPU DRAM. And the codes are changing just rapidly. CPU DRAM. CPU DRAM. CPU DRAM. CPU DRAM. CPU DRAM. Okay, it's off, on, off. Now it's back on. I bet I'm. Well, it looks like it seems like it's still boot looping. The reason why I haven't tried onboard video first is because that is not without its own set of challenges. The first of which is, where's my HDMI cable amongst all the video cables on my bench? There's a reason why I haven't tried it. Because this video card should work. I know it works. It's a tested video card. It probably didn't fail. But we are definitely boot looping. Yeah, we are boot looping. All right. Let's pull the... All right, we'll see you later, Sylvestron. Hopefully I'll get this thing sorted. I'll either get it sorted or I'll get the return started. One or the other. All right. Maybe we can try this with... without a video card, because if we do get it... You know, before I get too far, I'm going to put a new battery in it. It's been a while since I've used an Intel platform. And I don't... With all the different cycles Intel boards go through, they definitely do things differently than AMD boards. Well, actually, I don't know if I can find my batteries. That... Well, I guess, okay. How about, because I've misplaced my batteries, how about, let me pull the voltmeter out, and we'll see if the battery is... We'll see if the battery is dead. Hi, hardware hacker. Oh, yeah, member for 9 months. Congratulations. The CMOS battery, oh, still has 3 volts. Okay, that is not dead. All right. Moving along. All right. Thomas says some of the RAM may be reserved for the onboard video if it's turned on. I have no idea if onboard video is turned on or off or what, because we haven't got that far in the boot. So, but with 64 gigabytes of RAM, I would certainly hope that's enough RAM for whatever the onboard video is allocating, plus the board still be able to boot. Okay, so I have removed the graphics card. I've unplugged the USB stick. We have the keyboard plugged in. If we get far enough, I'm hoping we get to a point where maybe we stop boot looping. All right, unfortunately, I can't zoom out far enough to show the debug LED, or maybe I can. There we go. So, then we get a C1. All right. While it does this, I am going to continue my search for the HDMI cable. But yeah, it's just going between CPU and DRAM. All right, I need to pull up the user manual because we keep getting stuck at C1. All right, this is a revision 1.0. All right, manual. English. Joe says, all I can think of is bad RAM stick. It's failing to post, so it's probably not video related. David says, pull a stick out and retry. I tested this RAM last week, and it tested good in a Ryzen 9 3900X. All right. Let me make sure I got it in the right slots. Okay, so for double-sided modules, Channel A is 2 and 4. Yeah, channel A is DDR2 and 4. Channel B is DDR1 and 3. And it says 1, 3. Oh, I might have it in slots it doesn't like. I think it wants them in 1 and 2 first, and I have it in 3 and 4. All right, if that doesn't work, then I will pull a stick. Yeah, the fan is spinning. Jack says it's in 1 and... It's now... this is slot 1, 2... No, this is slot 1, 3, 2, 4. And the manual seemingly says to put it in 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4. That they're numbered weird. I'm also trying to find the clear CMOS really quick. Well, I've always tested boards on a cardboard box. And I'm sure the board would flex somewhat even putting the memory in if I had it in a case. Oh, we're still boot looping. Well, there we go. We're C1. What is C1? Let me see if there's a Dr. Debug. Debug LED codes, page 51. All right, C1 is seemingly what we get to before it reboots is... Oh, it's reserved. It's a reserved code. I love it when reserved codes get thrown and then you're not sure what's going on. All right. So the code C1 is a red herring. Let me see what it says about the... All right, I guess... Yeah, we are not getting the... The fact that I don't have a HDMI cable plugged in is apparently... Well, I don't. Well, I mean, I can try one stick of RAM, but if it works with one stick of RAM, it's going to be a return to eBay seller. Because that probably means the memory channel's bad. Besides, these two sticks of RAM are known working. I ran mem test on them Thursday. Hardware Hacker's asking, doesn't your RGB HDMI 300A have an HDMI cable? No, it does not. Also, it's not even plugged in. Yeah, these are 16 gigabyte modules. Two of them. Yeah, that's the max. According to the manual, although Coffee Lake at some point, at least with 9000 series CPUs, was going to get a 32 gigabyte module update. Yeah, we are. I think it's running in no calf mode right now. Okay. I'm trying to find the clear CMOS jumper because before I move this stick of RAM, I want to try clearing CMOS. Although, theoretically, me pulling the battery to check it should have cleared the CMOS, but I'm going to try the explicit clear CMOS. But I don't know where the clear CMOS jumper is. Assuming this board even has one. Alright, installing CPU. Installing memory, expansion card. Panel connectors. Yeah, it's boot looping. Let's see here. Clear CMOS, number 22 on the legend. Ah, okay. Clear CMOS is identified. It's down by the multi-connector. Does it have dual BIOS? No, it does not have dual BIOS. Yeah, it's boot looping. Okay. No one likes a boot loop. All right. So powered off. I am explicitly clearing CMOS. Thomas says also maybe an overclock condition failing the RAM. Well, theoretically, the eBay seller, when they tested it, should have not been using an overclock, but yeah, I guess that is possible. All right, now I have cleared CMOS, and if this doesn't work, then I will actually find a jumper and put a jumper on the clear CMOS just to make sure that I made contact. Yeah, there's the C1 code again, which the manual says is a reserved code. All right. I think the board's resetting. Yes, the fan is spinning. um, that's not how clear CMOS works. In fact, booting with the okay, I'm gonna try another stick of RAM. I don't know why it would work and those wouldn't, but no, I have all the power connectors plugged in. I've got the motherboard power, I've got the CPU power plugged in. There are no other power connectors. This is not one of those overclockers boards that has two CPU power connectors. There's just the one, and it's there. We're booting. It hates my team group RAM. No, no, the other RAM is not ECC. It's it's standard. It's there's nothing about it that I mean it's a random set of RAM I found in a bag of computer parts. But it worked fine in the Ryzen system, but all right. It's not ECC because there's only 16 chips on it. So it is not ECC. Jack says it's not really shocking that it doesn't like a particular stick of RAM. Well, I find it shocking because have you priced RAM recently? Why do I not have video output? Oops, did I click the wrong? No? All right, let me try again. David Starbuck saw my error. You know, there was a point in time where GPUs were smart enough to actually initialize without the extra power to then just show you the screen that says, plug me in, silly. And Jack says it has enough power to run its LEDs, though. Yeah, I have a keyboard attached, but all right. So Soccer Rich says, "Nah, that costs money." Yeah, we're oh, sorry. Unfortunately that um yeah, that debug code that it's stuck at, I if I had Dave's red alert sound, I'd have to flag the motherboard for cussing. Jesse says if you save 2 cents per every million cards, that's a lot of money. Yeah, I don't know why gigabyte boards stop at that code. There are other brands, I think Asus, that stops at 80 for you're okay. All right, so by not using the 32 gigabytes of RAM that I have, that apparently this motherboard does not like, um, I can get it to work with 16. Oh, David says it means all is fine. Yeah, so the one stick worked. I have a feeling it doesn't like this team group RAM. In fact, that might explain why this team group RAM was in the bag inside of an Intel system when I found it. Because it probably didn't like that 6th gen Intel system either. Well, this is going to put a crinkle in my plans for this system. I guess I'm going to have to go to eBay and find another stick of RAM that matches this one. Because I was hoping to run with 32 gigs of RAM, so at least had a little bit of RAM breathing room. No, it didn't like that RAM in any slot. I don't think it likes that RAM, period. Yeah, I found the matched slots for dual channel, and I had it in the wrong matched slots for dual channel, and it kept boot looping with that RAM in it. I mean, and then it boots right off the bat with this Oloy brand stick that. Excuse me if I'm not excited over weird brands of RAM, but David says 16 gigabytes should be fine for a streaming rig, though, Justin. Um, Jesse says, get more RAM, there goes your whole paycheck. Well, I want 32 just so I have some headroom. David Starbucks says it didn't like any of the team group stuff. Well, sample size of 2. No, it didn't like it. Thomas says maybe a BIOS update may help. I mean, I can look and see if there's a BIOS update for this board, but something tells me BIOS update will not add support for Team Group RAM. But I'll look. I don't know what version this board's running. Um, I I Well, the reason why I would prefer to run with 32 gigs of RAM is because well, I guess I could probably run on 16. Because I'm looking at Task Manager, I'm using 16% of the memory on this computer, and I don't remember how much RAM I have. Oh, I have 64 gigabytes of RAM in this computer. And that's because I bought it when RAM was cheap, and they were used memory modules. And spoiler alert, it's like server workstation memory, and it's like the 2133 modules, so they were kind of cheap. David says he has 64 gigabytes of RAM. Get him. I will try a BIOS update, but I don't know if there's a BIOS update. I will have to get into the BIOS. Jack says DDR4 3200 prices aren't horrible on eBay. Jesse says BIOS update to allow cheap Chinese brand RAM. Well, at the moment, I have what I would consider the cheap Chinese brand RAM in it. Team Group is slightly less cheap Chinese brand RAM. Although it is like their bottom of the barrel brand, or bottom of the barrel part, so maybe it is cheap Chinese brand RAM. All right, gigabyte. Oh, we have BIOS version F6 from 2018. Wow. What is the brand on the non-working stick? It's Team Group. Like the company that's currently being sued because lawyers found a reason to sue them. This is the non-working RAM. It's Team Group. Oh, and I guess it actually is made in Taiwan, so there's that. I can't tell what brand the RAM is. Looks like it's actually their own Team brand RAM. David says they make great NVMe drives at least. Jesse says Team Group isn't terrible. Well, no, they're not terrible other than these sticks don't work in this motherboard, which is terrible. Maybe I don't know, maybe I might find someone that might. Oh, Jesse says, to be fair, I did miss part of the stream for work-related maintenance. The stick I did get to work in this board is an Oloy brand stick, which Oloy is on my list of companies that I just move along when I see their listing and I go find another brand. Because I have no, this is the first time I've used Oloy brand RAM. I usually prefer to go with RAM of brands that I've used before and know works. Although with Micron exiting the consumer RAM business, that certainly makes it harder to do that now. No thanks to Micron. All right, so F6 BIOS was the one to support Optane memory. Version F7 updated the CPU microcode for upcoming CPUs, improved Windows boot time. F10 was optimized for 9th gen Intel processors. Actually, looks like I'd have to update BIOS for if I want to go with 9th gen anyways. F11 added support for GC Titan Ridge. I don't know what that is. That might be Thunderbolt, maybe? See, F12 support of future 9th gen Intel Core processors, update CPU microcode, update Intel IRST version, improved system performance and stability. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, F13 update IRST to improve Optane compatibility with future 9th gen CPU. Please update the latest IRST driver version. F14! Oh boy. I completely overlooked this one in the BIOS list. Update CPU microcode to address a potential security vulnerability in CPUs. See more. They point to an Intel website. Support JDEC DDR4 native 3200 megahertz memory. Something tells me we need to go up to F14. And then I bet the team group RAM works. Oh, that's neat. F15A added NTFS support for QFlash. All right, well. All right, so. This might seem silly, but I am going to update to F14, the one that actually had that note in the in the revision history. Because if that fixes the problem, then I'll know exactly. I'll know that was the actual reason. All right, so, and then I'll update it to the latest version because there are some other important fixes. All right, so capture. All right, so let's see here. Let's go to BIOS. Hold on. Let's see. Where did they put that? System. Oh. Um. Oh, that's weird. I thought there was usually a Jack says hopefully they removed references to Windows 8 in a future BIOS version. That is weird. Peripherals. thought normally Gigabyte had a like a oh end end end. There it is. All right. Update BIOS. There we go. Joe says, I do not enjoy the orange Gigabyte BIOS HUD, but this is definitely an old version. Oh, I guarantee you they haven't updated the HUD on this later BIOS version. That would cost money. Okay, so this is going to take us up to F14, which did have a note on the BIOS page that this added support for JDEC DDR4 native 3200 megahertz memory. And then once we install this, we'll try the Team Group RAM again. Because actually, spoiler alert, I noticed it when we had that memory in the Ryzen computer. It's native DDR4 3200 memory. It might actually work. David says, I think they created those graphics without taste as well. Joe says they snazzed up the colors. Yeah, it's so I didn't want to have to rename the BIOS file and use the QFlash. There is a recovery method on this board. There's like a button. You can plug it in a specific USB port and press a button while you're powering it up or something like that. I was trying to avoid that rigmarole. All right, we will go into the BIOS and make sure it... Yeah, I do like the progress with that method. Because I think the recovery QFlash... I think we gotta wait for it to retrain memory briefly. Hi, Dave. Welcome. Joe says it's not listed in the QVL, but other team modules are, so it probably needs BIOS update is all. All right, so let's make sure it actually updated, maybe. So it'll go on BIOS. Spamming delete key, please go BIOS. All right, F14, 2019 BIOS. All right, let's all right. Let's take this Oloy sticker RAM out. We will put the Team Group RAM back in. All right, I'm putting it in what I believe are the first two RAM slots. Kind of blindly. Oh, please. All right. All right, there we go. All right, place your bets in the chat. Will this firmware update have fixed the problem with this board liking this RAM? All right. I'm thinking that it will have solved it. Oh, we're seeing postcodes we weren't the first time around. Oh, all right, we got VGA boot LED. Ha! That was it. We needed a firmware update. Well, that's a new one. Jack says, you've seen it here, folks. A BIOS update actually fixed something. All right. Now there is one thing we are going to do here because reasons. We'll go ahead and download the latest version of the BIOS. And we'll update to it. Because it adds resizable bar support. Also, it adds the absolutely unnecessary feature of supporting NTFS file systems for your BIOS file. All right, so let's see here. We're going to escape out of this. We're going to hit the end key for QFlash, update BIOS. David says resizable bar allows you to access GPU memory faster. Hardware Hacker says NTFS support. I don't see that as entirely useless. Jack says that's my favorite graphic right there with the USB stick pointing towards the chip. Resizable bar. Yes. I guess that effect that would let you access GPU memory faster. I think the real reason for the feature is I think normally video cards, the video memory is put into a window within memory, and to change and to access video memory, you'd have to potentially page. Resizable bar lets you change the window size to potentially be same as video memory. So basically, your entire video card memory can be mapped to the address space. Hardware Hacker says, I like this updater graphic. Reminds me of 007 for N64. So the reason why you'd want resizable bar is a lot of the newer video cards make use of that. In fact, I think for the Intel Arc video cards, I think you can use them without resizable bar, but it's going to really kill performance because those video cards need resizable bar. But I think the modern AMD and NVIDIA graphics cards can also take advantage of it and do. Because with 64-bit processors, the address space is more than big enough for mapping video memory to the address space. Yeah, David says, yeah, Arc needs rebar to make them faster. Yeah. The scaler, yes, the scaler has the color bars in the wrong order. Yes. All right. Since I do seemingly have a good BIOS version, I'm going to go into BIOS and set a few settings, and then we'll let MimTest run. All right, advanced frequency settings. I guess that's all fine. Memory settings. Yeah, I can let it auto because it's detected that I've got native DDR4 2033 miscellaneous settings. I don't want to change any of that. System. We'll leave the clock wrong at the moment. Let's see here. I am curious. Oh, yeah, the choices are Windows 8 or 10 or Windows 810 WHQL. Interesting. All right, CSM support. Yeah, I'll leave that on for now. All right, it's all fun. Oh, good. We've got our embedded TPM. That's what that platform trust technology is. You know, a lot of these settings are actually pretty decent by default. Okay, don't want to change those. Chipset. Oh. Okay, well, actually, Gigabyte settings are, um, yes, that did say 3D Mark enhancement. Yes, it did. David says 3D Mark 2003 would fly on this thing. There we go. We got the team group RAM working, so there you have it. Sometimes RAM BIOS updates can fix memory compatibility problems. And sometimes those memory compatibility problems were caused by JDEC. Because apparently at some point, I didn't realize it. I guess in the back of my mind on Thursday, I noticed it, but I didn't realize that JDEC had updated the standard. Because I think it used to be the standard was that you would set your RAM to a lower speed and have to enable an XMP profile to make it faster. Thomas says, ready to run DOS 2000. Jack says, WHQL forces UEFI mode, I guess. Quite possibly. Okay, so I have a few things in my eBay watch list. It says the standard was 2133 at 1.25 volts. I'm actually kind of surprised they changed the DDR4 default speed as late as they did. Oh, it's 3200 at 1.35 volts now. Maybe the RAM manufacturers insisted on it. Because, I mean, it used to be that it would default at a slow speed, and maybe with DDR2 and 3, the speeds were... I mean, there was only seemingly 3 or... Well, I guess with DDR2, there were only 3 speeds the RAM would run at. There were 3 spec speeds it could run at. DDR3, I think there were 3 or 4. But seemingly with DDR4, there's 20 bazillion spec speeds it can run at. I guess that is friendlier for the consumer. Anyways, I was going to. So I've got a couple things on my eBay wish list that I would very much like to have as potential regrets. One of which, the PC Mark 2003 comment reminded me. I would like to get a motherboard that supports the last AMD processor that supported 3D Now, and compare it with like the first processor that supported 3D Now. If I can find 3D Now games that will run on both, and manage to get an operating system running on both that are, yeah, that'll be fun. Yeah, Jack says lol, 3D Now. Yeah, I found an eBay seller that's selling a motherboard with the processor on it, the right processor. It's like the AMD A8 3870K. It's a Elano core. So like nothing really to write home about. No, David. It actually, AMD was putting 3D Now into their processors up until socket FM1, which was one of their APU sockets. And like the A8 3870K. Yeah, seriously, they had 3D Now in their processors till like, I want to say that was about, what, 2010, 2012? Yeah, the CPU has a copyright date of 2010 on it. And it had 3D Now. David says, I'm still waiting on 3D later. 3D Now started shipping with the K6-2. Although, I think the Athlon had more 3D Now instructions. So, yeah. That's one of the problems. I think there was 3D Now started with the AMD K6-2, but I think the Athlon added instructions to it. So some of the games that supported 3D Now might be new enough that they require the Athlon and wouldn't run on a K6-2. That's one of the problems with this idea I have. Oh, Lazy Bite Boy says, lol, that last one launched December 2011. Yeah, hi, Lazy Bite Boy. Yeah, so they were shipping 3D Now for like 13 years. Because I want to say they first released it like 98 to 2011. It was 13 years. Thomas asks, what BIOS revision did I go up to now? I went up to F15, which is the latest BIOS. Yeah, I went to F14 because of the RAM fix. I wanted to make sure that actually fixed it. Because going up to F15 was a one-way upgrade. Although, considering Gigabyte hasn't updated the BIOS on this board for 5 years, I'm probably fine. Yeah, Lazy Bite Boy says K6-2 and Maya 98, first CPU. So yeah, 13 years of 3D Now. David says, I remember the 3D Now patch for Quake 2 added something like a whopping 2 frames per second. Yeah. Yeah, BIOS update did it. Apparently this team group RAM, the default speed is DDR4 3200, and apparently F14 of the BIOS added support for RAM that defaults to that speed. What am I going to do for storage? I am going to use a 1 terabyte NVMe drive. Luckily, I have a few laying around. Because drives are usually something I don't... When I part out a system, I usually keep the drive. So I have a couple of... I think they're PCIe 3 gen NVMe drives. But I'm going to use one of those. It's 1 terabyte. That'll be enough for Windows and OBS and the assets I keep local. But at some point, I'll put a second drive in it. But for now, I'm just going to put one terabyte. I was thinking about pulling the drive that I have in my streaming computer and using it. But I decided that no, even though I'm going to move everything over, I'm going to leave it so that I have a fallback plan. Joe's asking, what monstrosity of a case are you going to put this in? I'll get back to that in a moment, because Hardware Hacker says one little terabyte drive. Thunderclap. I have on my eBay watch list assuming that someone hasn't bought it yet, a 2009 era case. It's a Cooler Master Sniper. And it's big enough that it'll fit the tall cooler. Plus, I think the case looks cool. It's got drive bays. Got 3 big RGB fans in the front. No, actually, I'm probably not going to put RGB on it because I don't need the distraction of cycling lights while I'm streaming. Although, I also did realize that I bought an Antec case for a project, and I also realized that given my ground rules for the project, that Antec case won't really work for that project, so I may use it instead. Hardware Hacker says he likes the Cooler Master Stacker 830, which I'm not familiar with that case. It has no 5 1/4 inch drive bays. Or I found the wrong page. 1. It has 9 drive... Where are the drive bays? I don't see... Hold on. Apparently the Cooler Master still has it on their site, but there's like one little photo and they claim it's got drive bays, but I sure don't see where they are in the picture. Hardware Hacker says it had tons of bays. Yeah, this board certainly has enough red as it is. Actually, some of these boards you have to actually run the Windows program to change the color. And I have a feeling this is one of those boards. It's also possible that red's the only color the motherboard changes. That may only be red. Oh, I found it, Hardware Hacker. The problem is with some of these cases is Availability. Oh yeah, here's someone selling one of those Cooler Master Stacker 830s on eBay, and they want too much for it. Although maybe that's a fair price that they're asking, but that is way more than I want to pay for the case. They're asking $250 plus $55 shipping. Joe says fractal design meshify. The other thing is, when I'm looking at cases, if I can't find a clear description of the case that says how tall of a CPU cooler it supports, I'm disqualifying it. Unless I can find a picture of someone using the cooler that I want to use in it and see that it fits, then it's requalified. The Meshify cases don't have 5 1/4 inch drive bays. I have a requirement. I do have a requirement that I either need the case to have USB-C port, or the case either has to have a USB-C port and one 5 1/4 inch drive bay, plus enough other USB ports on the front that I can still plug stuff in while I'm streaming, or it needs to have like 2 or 3 external drive bays so that I can put a drive bay alternative in. Jack says your cardboard case box is working fine as a case. Well, it is now, but not once I get everything mounted. David Starbucks says, too bad the Corsair 200R is discontinued. Perfect case for a streaming PC. You know, David, it is really funny that you mentioned the Corsair 200R. Like, really funny. Like, so funny, I think I might need to do the following.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our favorite segment, Wheel of Regrets. Here's your host, Justin D. Morgan.
Hey, who comes with these titles anyway?
And then we'll have to go grab the box. That animation wasn't long enough for me to try to beat the animation. So let me go grab the box. So, this next potential regret comes to us from an eBay seller in Florida. Hi to all my eBay sellers and viewers in Florida. In fact, I don't remember what part of Florida you're in, David, but this came from Tampa. You'll never guess what's in here. Jack says, hello, large box. Oh, David says Jacksonville. Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, they used a large Amazon box. All right. I think the trash guys are going to hate me this week. Or they're just going to throw it in the truck and move on. One or the other. Does this look familiar, David? Uh-oh. That's not good. So if anyone was thinking this thing sounded a bit jiggly, there were some casualties in shipping. There's no way I can put this beside the Z440 workstation. And actually, this is the case for my video editing computer. Although, if although I might find another one for my streaming rig. It would appear as if the fans kinda had a FedEx-induced rapid unscheduled disassembly. I don't think they're the original Corsair fans. Let's see, will they go back together? Oh, apparently... Oh, apparently I fixed them. There we go. Yeah, those are not Corsair fans. Anyways, I bought this case on eBay, the place where I buy the things I later regret, so that I had a case to put my video editing computer in. So, yeah, it's a Corsair 200R. David says you don't need top fans. Yeah, probably you'll just unnecessarily put other top fans in them instead. So, yeah. And actually, if it had dawned on me what I bought this case for, I wouldn't have brought it down to the basement in the first place. And, well, Hardware Hacker says that's over-the-top cooling. Good one, good one. But anyways, there we go. It's the case for my video editing computer. It's got room for the Blu-ray burner I want to install in it, which I have somewhere in the house. I have a feeling it's hiding in my stack of optical drives down here, or I hope it is. But, yeah. So, hopefully, it'll fit the cooler. Oh, and, for anyone that looked at the case and was like, but Justin, that doesn't have USB-C on it. It has three 5 1/4 inch drive bays, and I bought a USB 3.2 Gen 2 hub on Amazon that goes in a 3.5 inch drive bay. And I bought a 5 1/4 inch to 3.5 inch drive bay adapter. So I will be able to put a hub in the case, and it'll have two USB-C and two USB-A plugs on it. That will solve the problem that there's no USB-C in the case. So Joe says it's versatile, but the AG FLP02 is cooler. David says I have my Plex server in one of those. Kevin says over the top cooling. What does that mean? It's like too much money. There is no such thing. David says 3 5 1/4 inch drive bays, 4 2.5 inch drive bays, and 4 3.5 inch drive bays. All of your drive bays belong to us. Yes. So, yeah. I will probably do a video of my video editing computer build, and that's the case I intend to put in it. I'm waiting on the cooler, because as you all know, the cooler I have for that processor is the wrong one. But I've ordered one that will be definitely the right one. Oh, and you all are probably wondering what MimTest is doing. Don't worry, you haven't missed anything. Apparently. Also, somewhere in my wagon that I also has an air conditioner in it right now, is another potential eBay regret, which maybe when MimTest finishes here, I might try to dig it out. Yeah, I bought a one of those portable air conditioners because I would love to install a window air conditioner, but I've got the wrong type of windows in the basement, and replacing the windows is not in the budget. So I bought one of their. Luckily, there are companies that make adapters so that you can install a portable air conditioner in the window like I have here in the basement. I don't know how well the adapters work, but, well, I figured that some attempt is better than no attempt, so we will see. But yeah, basically the windows that I have down in the basement open inward. So I'll have to... Yeah, I'll have to... So yeah, I'm going to try one of the adapters. Because right now it's like 77 degrees in the basement, which is tolerable because I got a fan on. But man, sometimes while I'm working on computers and kind of getting heated over frustration, that I just want some cool air to be blowing on me, not same temperature as the room air. So I finally broke down and got one of those portable air conditioners, and we'll see how it works. So I ordered a cheaper window adapter, one that looks like it has some insulation, and then I've got one on my wish list on Amazon that if the concept works, I've got one that looks like it's more insulated. Or maybe I might build an adapter. I'd like to try to, if I could build one, I would like to build one that would let me, like, leave the air conditioner in the window somehow, but make it so that you couldn't open the window any further than needed for the adapter. Because I have no restriction on securing something to the concrete wall. That is always a possibility. I have not figured out how to get the window pane to pop out, but I'm sure, given enough research, I might be able to figure out how to get the window to pop out. And then, yeah, a piece of plywood. I could totally make something that I could sandwich, like 2 pieces of plywood, one inside and one outside, and make it so that I could sandwich them. Um, yeah, double-sided bolt or something. I considered other types of air conditioners, but since the basement is not insulated, I realized that any air conditioning I do now is temporary. So I decided to just get a portable air conditioner because the windows in the basement open inwards. So I can't use a window air conditioner. I am not cutting a hole in the wall to use a wall air conditioner. Mini split would be a possibility, but honestly, given it would be temporary, those are kind of pricey for just installing it temporarily. Uh, I have a heat pump, but it is not. David says if your basement is underground, it's insulated. My basement is a walkout basement, so it is not insulated. Believe me, the part of my basement that is above ground, you can, yeah, it's a walkout basement, so it's only like half underground. My indoor AC unit is not big enough to cool the basement. I don't even need to ask a HVAC technician. On really hot days, it struggles to keep up with its own air conditioning tasks, so creating more vents down in the basement is not going to solve that problem any. So I want something for the basement. That's why I got a portable air conditioner. It won't affect the heat pump for the first floor. And I can turn it on while I'm down in the basement so I have some cool air. And yeah. Lazy Bite Boy says not with Northeastern electric prices. I mean, I got it for so I can run it while I'm streaming and maybe a little bit beforehand. So electric usage, I don't think I'll be using like a whole lot. I mean, let's say if I spend $1 a live stream running that air conditioner, which I think since my power is somewhere between 15 and 20 cents a kilowatt hour, I don't know what the exact rate is because they break it down between. So I guess in Virginia they have to break your power bill down between the transmission cost and the actual electricity cost. So there's multiple line items where they calculate your power. I just haven't added them all up recently. So I'm like, Lazy Bite Boy says, your basement looks pretty big. The standalone AC was a good idea. Yeah, if I, someday I'm going to insulate the basement so that the basement is insulated. And then once I do that, I'll probably put a mini split down here so that I can run the mini split in dehumidify mode while I'm not down here, and could switch it to cool mode while I am here. And at least I'm not just sending all the cool air through the foundation. David says I pay 10 cents a kilowatt here. Thomas says ours is 6 cents a kilowatt all in. Yeah. I want to say I'm probably it's like 15 to 20 cents. Because I think the kilowatt hour price is like 11 cents. But that one actually gets billed on 2 separate line items. It's really weird because I don't remember them telling me that that there's a like demand time window for higher pricing or whatnot. But it's not like an even number that's the first number that would be like, well, they charge you X rate for the first like 500 kilowatt hours and then they charge you another rate for the rest. It's really weird. Someday I'll dig into the bill. Not that I'm aware of, Jack. They've never told me what the time of day dependent rates are. Yet my bill, it looks like there might be time of day dependent rates, although the rate difference between the two times is not that much. David Starbucks says we get the first 1,000 kilowatts free. Yeah, it's someday I'll look at the bill. It's kind of one of those things that the number looks okay for how much power I'm using and whatnot. But power bills in the summer are $300 plus. Yeah, my last power bill was like $147, but that would have been for the month of like the end of April, beginning of May. Is that right? No, I guess it had been, no. It had been the end of May, beginning of June. Yeah. But I was at the beach for one of those weeks. So I had the thermostats set up higher than normal since I wasn't home. And I turned a bunch of stuff off so it wouldn't be using power during that time. But I did accidentally realize that I didn't bump one of the thermostats up like I thought I had. So that air conditioner was actually running part of the week at the lower temperature. But part of that week, it wasn't really that hot. And I might have caught my mistake in time before it got really hot at the end of that week. And then the temperature's normalized. I think my power bill, though, for my next power bill will probably be closer to $250 to $260. Yeah, David says power bills in summer are $300 plus a month because the HVAC never gets a break. Winter bill is like $100 though. Yeah, I don't. So the spring and the fall are when I get the cheapest bills. Although I think more so in the spring. I usually get like 2 cheap bills in the spring, but usually only 1 in the fall. But summer is cheaper than winter. Because in summer, you've got a heat pump, and there's no such thing as auxiliary cooling. Although someone is probably bound to tell me in the chat or the comments that, oh, there is such a system, it's this, blah! But in the winter, there is such a thing as auxiliary heating, and it's basically resistance coil, feed power into resistance coil to generate heat. It is 100% efficient. As in, 100% of the electricity is converted to heat. It's not a heat. So that's that kicks on if the heat pump can't keep up with the warming demand. So, yeah, unfortunately, my winter bills are usually higher than my summer bills. Thomas says Apple G5. Yeah, I think usually in the winter I get I usually have 1 month where I get a bill that's like over $400. Because inevitably there's a month where it's like below 10 degrees Fahrenheit for several nights. Because in the summer, if your air conditioning can't keep up, well, yeah, it's just going to run constantly, but it's not like it's going to activate some extra mode that isn't heat pump efficient to create more cooling. There is no such thing. Yeah, they don't have natural gas to this subdivision, so propane is not the way to heat your house, because propane is expensive. Yeah, if they had natural gas here, I would have probably looked into like a natural gas furnace, because that quite possibly would be cheaper than electricity. So yeah. Um. Anyways, it looks like this motherboard works. The processor works. The cooling fan works. The temperatures are great. They looked at 45 degrees C. And this thermal compound, I just kind of slopped it on. And it's 45 degrees C. David says the best way to heat your house is to have a bunch of cats. Organic space heaters. Yeah. Yeah, Joe says, hooray, it works. Jack says, I just looked. Peak hours in summer and winter is 30 cents a kilowatt hour. Thomas says, Mitsubishi makes great heat pumps, AC, and heat from AC. Yeah, I would like to insulate my basement. That's a longer term project. So that at least there's insulation on the walls. Even if I leave the space unfinished, but insulate the walls. That would at least let me then look into maybe putting a mini split in for the basement. Or maybe like, because I know they make them where they've got a mini split that it's like one outside unit and you can have a couple of inside units. I've thought about maybe looking into one of those for the basement where I could have like a couple of the smaller cartridges or whatever they call them to kind of distribute the dehumidification and cooling capability. Hardware Hacker says insulate the walkout door. Nope, I'll leave the walkout door. It's fine. I still want to be able to walk in and out. But no, fun fact, concrete has 0 insulative ability. So, yeah, concrete walls, 0 insulation. Unless it's like the concrete where they like put insulation panels in the concrete foundation, which this foundation is not one of those. Concrete itself has 0 insulation quality. So, I mean, put up frame 2x4 walls or 2x6 walls, whatever the standard is these days. Put bat insulation in between those walls and do that all around the outside walls. But leave the door so I can still bring stuff in and out of the door. That would then give enough of a thermal envelope down in the basement where if I did like put in an air conditioner, it would actually keep the cool in. All right, Joe says I wouldn't update the CPU. 6 cores, 6 threads is best you can get anyway. Save money on electricity by keeping the i5. Thomas says, I think we have R65 in the walls. The reason why I really wanted to go 9th gen is because the 9th gen processors have the hardware vulnerabilities built into the processor. And I was trying to maybe future-proof a little from Microsoft deciding to remove processors in the future. But I guess, because every time I get this brilliant idea to sell a processor to buy a better one, I inevitably lose that. I lose in that deal because of miscalculations, so maybe I might keep the i5 in here. The thing is, some of my assets I use for streaming, I play raw video files, so that I'm not recompressing video. I just wanted to make sure that I had enough CPU power to actually be able to play those video files. Because the thing is, I'm running a Z440 workstation, and the only reason I'm not going with another Xeon is I looked at the pricing of the Xeons that are supported by Windows 11, and, well, I didn't like the pricing of those. But the, right now I'm running on an E5 1660 V4, and I don't remember how many cores and threads that one has. And yeah, so some of my concerns are just because I'm streaming with X now, and I'm going down to Y, and I don't want the streaming experience to change, and I'm blaming Microsoft. So yeah, I'll be going from an 8-core, 16-thread processor that runs a 3.2 gigahertz, 3.8 gigahertz turbo, down to a 6-core, 6-thread. Joe says, core count and speed is all that matters in terms of video decoding. Well, I agree with that, but there are other... It's not just video encoding that I'm worried about. Or I have the other software that's running on top of it, too. Remember, I got to run Windows on it. I got to run OBS Studio. I've got to run Discord, and we all know how horribly Discord runs. Well, I don't have to run Discord. Fun fact, I'm not running Discord right now. Okay, maybe I don't reinstall Discord on my streaming computer, because... Oh, wait, correction, I am running Discord. It's open in a browser tab. I lied. It's just that, because I looked at what going up to a supported Xeon would cost, and all the supported Xeons are, like, so new that they're expensive. Joe says, Windows 11 won't support my 2019 Mac Pro Skylake Xeon either. Microsoft are stingy on the Xeons, yeah. Thomas says the i9 9600K. Actually, that's the i9 9900K, and those processors go used for a lot of money. I'm not spending that much for a processor. Hardware Hacker says, I have one of those i9 processors. Thomas is asking, what one has the big gaming cache on it? You're thinking of the AMD 5600 X3D. Joe says, if you could get more cores, fine, but unfortunately 6 is best you can get, and you have it. If I'm not mistaken, I thought the i7 had 8 cores. Yeah, the i7 9700K is 8 cores, 8 threads. So that's 2 extra cores. So that's kind of why I was wanting to go for the 9700K, was to get those 2 extra cores. I'm not really as concerned about the hyper-threading, because that's kind of possibly half gimmicky anyways. Yeah, David Starbucks says the 5800 X3D, the 5700 X3D, etc. Thomas Armstrong says Intel had one as well, and I don't remember which one that is, Thomas, and I was thinking it was really gimmicky, the Intel one. Lazy Bite Boy's asking, they are re-releasing the 5600 X3D, right? I have heard that rumor, but I'm not sure they've confirmed it. David Starbucks says is being released, so maybe. Joe says, 2 cores fine, 9700K better. Yeah, David Starbucks says 9700K is 8 cores, no hyper-threading. Hardware Hacker says Morocco just beat the Netherlands in the World Cup. And my internet is still alive, so I guess we can't blame the World Cup on a non internet loss event. Oh yeah, also I saw in the news today Comcast is apparently spinning off their cable business from their broadband and mobile business, and yeah, I'll believe that's a good thing when I see it. Thomas Armstrong says, I guess Canada is playing the Netherlands. Lazy Bite Boy says, yeah, that seemed weird. David says, well, good night, everybody. Gotta hit the rack, work tomorrow. Yep, I gotta work tomorrow, too. Lazy Bite Boy says, I don't trust him. Joe says, I'd still keep the i5 you got. It works 6 cores enough when GPU does the heavy lifting. Thomas says, or maybe Morocco. Yeah, I don't know who plays who. I'm not keeping up the World Cup. All I have to say is, go team go, beat the other team, score lots of goals, make score big. Oh wait, that's football. Never mind. Other football, yeah. Make score small, score a few goals, go team go, beat the other team. Thomas says I'm more hockey. Yep. Anyways, yeah, good night, David. And with that, it's probably a good point to stop the stream. So we got a working motherboard. It'll be my streaming computer. Maybe I will keep this i5 8600K. It wasn't quite the processor I wanted, but it was one of those. The seller was bundling the processor with the motherboard. And considering I had no 8th or 9th gen processor to be able to test the board with, I bought the bundle. I do know that the used 9700K processors go for around $100. Which seems like it might be an okay price. I don't remember what I paid for this bundle right offhand. I'll look. Kind of be a... Yeah, after shipping for the motherboard, the processor, and the heatsink. With shipping, it was $133. Which, this is a higher end motherboard, so I was expecting to pay a bit more for the motherboard. It was, I mean, it's an okay deal. A good deal. I don't know that it was a great deal, but it was a good deal. Because I think the thing is, if I'd bought the processor separately, it would have been about $50. And the motherboard would have probably been about $100 on its own. Okay, maybe I did get a good deal. And it is a Noctua cooler, an actual genuine Noctua cooler with a Noctua fan. Quite honestly, I don't know that this cooler's been used much at all. The fan looks pristine. I could go up to an i9 9900K, but those processors I think are still going for like over $200 used. In fact, I was thinking they might be like $300 used still. I looked them up on a whim and I decided no. Okay, like $200 for an i9 9900K. I was like, no, that's more than I want to spend on the processor. I don't need that the top tier. Yeah, it's about that time. Anyways, it's the motherboard. It's got it has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built in. And in fact, it's actually Intel Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Oh, that's right. I was going to mention the other package that is somewhere in my cart that I brought the air conditioner down in. I did buy a replacement Wi-Fi Bluetooth module for my other Gigabyte board. I found a seller that was selling the exact module. So just like the PCB part. So I will at some point very carefully detach the antenna wires and replace the module. It was like $12. Oh yeah, it's the other board that had the bad module. This one, the seller sold as working. Anyways, I realized that as much as I was thinking that I would just use wired Ethernet, it dawned on me that that module also has the Bluetooth on it. And I do use Bluetooth. Even though I used wired Ethernet because it's video editing and I get a faster connection with wired, I too use Bluetooth. So I decided to pay the $12 for a replacement module. just the PCB, and I'll swap modules and reinstall it. If that doesn't fix it, then I might go for an Intel module, but I decided I would start with swapping the same module in. Anyways, yeah. So I was going to just not reinstall the module, but I decided to fix the problem so I could have Bluetooth. This computer, I definitely use wired Ethernet, but I also do use Bluetooth, so I'll be able to free up a USB port because I won't need an external dongle. All right, Kevin's asking, am I working on the Plus next stream? Good question. So, Thursday, I am intending, assuming I get the parts from Mauser on Thursday, and I need to give that caveat because if you, we are supposed to have a, like, it is supposed to be very hot here Thursday, and it is quite possible that UPS may throw a delivery exception and not deliver packages, or they may, like, they may not deliver it because they may stop delivering at some point on Thursday because of heat. Because it's supposed to get up to, like, 103 here. But anyways, I have some parts coming from Mauser, mainly oscillator sockets and oscillators, because I want to try some FPU oscillators. So if those parts come in, we will work on the Mac Plus Thursday. Yeah, Joe says, oh, they will be delivering with mandatory breaks. Thomas says 103 degrees Fahrenheit is yuck. Yeah. So it is quite possible I will not get that delivery before I stream Thursday, especially if they have to take mandatory breaks. Hardware Hacker says, well, I can't blame them if they have to throw an exception. No, I can't blame them either, but if I don't have the parts on hand, I might work on something else. Because I really want to only work... The thing is, given how the upgrade works on the Mac Plus, I want to install it and leave it. I don't want to install it and then remove it and then install it again. So I really want to put an oscillator socket on it before I install it, because I can't install that. I can't solder one in after it's installed. So when I install the upgrade, you'll probably see why I'm kind of concerned and I don't want to, like, insert and remove too many times. So if we get the parts, we'll work on the Mac Plus for sure. If those parts don't come in, we may look at something else. But that's not to say that it won't be Mac Plus related. It just may not be the upgrade card. But how about if I have to punt on the Mac Plus because I don't get my UPS delivery, I will find some other Macintosh to work on. I think I can make that guarantee. If it's not the Mac Plus, it'll be another Mac. How's that for because I don't have any other PC parts that are inbound that I have to test sooner rather than later. So I think I can pretty much safely say we can work on a Mac on Thursday, even if it's not the Mac Plus. So with that, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe and turn on notifications so you know when I go live next, because Thursday, we're going to work on a Mac. Hopefully the Mac Plus might be another Mac. We're going to work on a Mac. So, yeah, Hardware Hacker says I'll allow it. Dave says it sounds good. Evan says it sounds good. All right. So anyways, with that, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. I can definitely tell that I need to drink some water and then go to bed because I have to work tomorrow. Dave says, thanks for the stream. See you Thursday. All right. And I'm glad I could join you, Dave, on Sunday. So glad I actually was able to make it on your stream. So anyways, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Oh, let me find the. Always. Yeah, got to make sure I got my finger in the right spot. Have a great rest of your day. Take care and God bless. Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon and by your tips and memberships on Coffee. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. Don't forget to smash that like button. And if you've liked what you've seen, subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss the next video or live stream. And as always, thank you for all your support. I hope to see you next time. And until then, take care.